Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about envy and how to overcome that feeling of jealousy, envy, and the comparison that we constantly find ourselves doing, especially in the world of social media online, where you can see everyone's life updates as you scroll through, and we find ourselves comparing and saying, why aren't I doing that? Or am I less than because I'm not doing as well? And while I like to pride myself on someone who is emotionally intelligent and I teach emotional intelligence classes, helping people understand their emotions, I sometimes have trouble controlling my own emotions. And this week it was envy that was getting the best of me. I don't like those emotions that, we perceive as negative. They're that yucky feeling that you have inside, and it can make you angry or, like I said, envious or jealous. And so I wanted to talk about that because I think it's something that we all struggle with, especially in the world of social media. And it's something that we can definitely get control of. And by controlling it, I think that that's when our emotional intelligence kicks in and we have the power to overcome it. So I want to discuss the issue that I was having and then what I did to overcome it myself. And that was, I was scrolling through LinkedIn, and it's the beginning of the year, so everyone's posting, their new job updates and their promotions, because during year end review and then obviously the next year, that's when a lot of promotions happen, which is exciting. And I'm normally someone who is super happy for other people. I genuinely try to do that because I think it's important that we all cheer each other on. I'm not usually one of those people that poo poo on someone else's parade. I think that's horrible. So, genuinely, I'm usually someone who's very happy for other people. But this one person, and I don't know if it's because this person is around my age or whatnot, but I couldn't be happy for them. And I just felt this I felt this yucky feeling inside me, and it was just, I was a little bit embarrassed, to be honest. And I caught myself realizing, I'm not happy for this person. I'm feeling this feeling of, I was like, I don't know if it's envy or if I want what they have. And I just didn't want, I didn't want to be feeling that. So I had to rationalize myself through that feeling and say, okay, I and I started by asking myself these questions. So I'm hoping that you can quickly jot these down so that you can ask yourself the next time that you're feeling this feeling. And if this happens to you, I hope that this helps you. So the first thing I asked was, does what they have get me closer to my goals? So if I could swap places with them tomorrow, is that what I would want? If someone was like, here, here's the promotion that they got. Is this what you want? This is what you want for your life. This is how you want to be living their life, is how they live their life currently. This is what you want. I was like, well, no. And that's when I realized it was more about, it wasn't that I wanted that job and it wasn't that I wanted their life. It was more so about the prestige of the title and the accolades. And so because it was more about that, then I asked myself, well, if that's not getting me closer to my goals, if I just, if my ego was really the one that was jealous, my logical brain was able to say, no, that's not what you want. But my ego was like, oh, but I want that title, and to be, or to seem that important. I think a lot of us also get caught in that trap of, okay, well, no, I don't really want their life, but I'm jealous because they get so many likes, or they get X, Y, and Z, or they have this recognition. And so I wanted to ask myself, okay, well, then what are the goals for my life? So the next thing I asked was, what are the three things that I want to achieve before I die? And what do I want people saying to me or saying about me if if they were at my funeral or not here anymore, which seems a little bit morbid, but stick with me on this one. So what do I want to achieve before I die? So for me, the top three things were: number one, being the most amazing wife and mother possible. And what does that look like to me? I want to have a passionate, loving, and supportive marriage. And to me, being supportive means that I do the cooking and the meal prep and the food shopping and the laundry and things like that. And I really love to do those things. And I feel like even I do consider myself a feminist, but I am not someone who's just like, I won't cook. And I think that the domestic things in the house need to be done. Do I like to clean bathrooms? No, I don't. So I have an amazing husband that usually does those things because I can't stand it. Oh, and dishes. I don't do dishes. Mark's amazing. He does all the dishes. But the other domestic things, like all of the cooking, the laundry, and those types of things, the things that I really like to do, I do those things because they have to get done. The domestic things of the house still have to get done. And so I want to support my family by still doing those things. And obviously, cooking at home, it saves a lot of money. It's way healthier. So that's how we want to live our lives. That's getting us closer to the goals that we have of maintaining a healthy lifestyle and saving money and those things that are really important to us. So that is how I want to be a supportive partner in my marriage. And then obviously being passionate and loving and making sure that we have time for each other, and eventually when the baby gets old enough, being able to travel again and things like that. And then being an amazing mother, to me, that means that I want to stay home and be with him for the first year of his life. I want to be using my nights and weekends to grow my business. But to me, I want to be home with him. I don't want to miss any of those milestones. And I am not in any way shaming working mothers for pursuing, what they want to do in their jobs and their careers and what they have to do to support their family. I think that's great. Like I just admitted, I was very jealous of someone who was a working parent or is a working parent. And so to me, it's not a judgment thing. For me, it's completely just about my goals versus other people's goals. And my goal is to stay at home with my baby for the first year of his life. And honestly, I think it's disgusting that our country doesn't have a parental leave or a maternity leave policy of any sort, but that's a different conversation for another day. And so for me, being there for the first year of my child's life is so incredibly important. There are multiple studies that support that it's imperative for their cognitive and emotional well-being, and that they're able to better regulate their emotions and stress and all of those things later in life. So that is my priority, and that is one of my biggest goals. So right now I am meeting, like I'm on my way to doing that. I'm in line with that goal. So for me to be jealous of someone whose life is very different than mine, it honestly doesn't make sense. So I was like, okay, I had to really check myself there, because if I'm staying at home, obviously I'm not climbing the corporate ladder the way that someone else would be if, I'm not actually in corporate. Secondly, I wanted my children to be able to say that I followed my passions and I believed in myself and I inspired others to do the same. And again, that is by pursuing my business. When I could have gotten back into corporate, I could have gotten another corporate job, and I chose not to do that, but instead to really put my head down, work on this business, and believe in myself, because that's honestly the hardest part. The hardest part isn't doing the work to grow your business. It's doing it consistently because you actually believe that you're going to get there. And there's some days I doubt myself. There's some days where, my husband has to believe in me, where other people have to believe in me, because I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Is this ever going to happen? Because I have no patience. But we'll get to the patience part in a bit. But part of what I desire for my children and for my younger cousins and for anyone else who might be looking up to me is that they see that I followed my passions, I worked really hard, and I did the best I could to do what I felt called to do and not what I feel society was expecting of me necessarily. So I want to be able to inspire the next generation, to inspire the people that I really love and care about, that they can be whatever they feel called to be, which I feel is so important. Because I don't think that we should be doing what we feel like we should do. I feel like we should be doing what we feel called to do, which is different. And that comes at different times. You might not get your calling until later in life. I know that I didn't really feel mine until my late 20s. And that's when I started being like, okay, I actually feel called to perhaps start my own business and do something like that. And your calling and your passion are going to change over time, especially in your late teens and early 20s as you're figuring out what's meant for you and what you're called to do. But for me, I really want to be pursuing what I feel is meant for me, and I want to inspire the next generation to do the same. And number 3, I want people to be able to say that the company that I built and the work that I did, it created a really positive impact and that it helped a lot of people. Again, the work that I'm doing, the courses that I'm creating, they're meant to help people heal from their past and align with their goals and pursue them and understand themselves better through that emotional intelligence training, and therefore improving their communication. And how beautiful a world would we live in if we were able to heal from what makes us insecure, heal from what makes us become defensive, and be able to communicate better and more effectively and in a kinder manner, because we're healed from all of that and we're able to work better with others, whether that is your family or whether that's your coworkers. And that's the work that I feel called to do, and that's what I'm pursuing right now. And I really hope that that helps a lot of people. So those were my 3 things that I really wanted to achieve by the end of my life. And I just realized that, okay, if I am on that path, if I'm on the path to achieving those 3 things, I have to make sure that I'm doing that consistently. And that is going to be my definition of success. So if I'm doing those things, then I am successful in my own right. And then lastly, to just remember, just as someone else's path is not your path, their 3 things are going to be different than your 3 things. Their timeline is also not your timeline. As I mentioned before, if I'm jealous of someone who is having success in corporate America, but I'm not even in corporate America right now, like it's so not aligned. So their timeline is not my timeline. I'm going to see success differently, but I'm also going to experience different levels of success at different points in my life. And that is okay, because to me, I need to define my success as pursuing those top 3 aspects in my life. So making sure that I'm the best wife and mother possible, that I'm working on my business on the nights and weekends, and doing what I can to continue working toward all of my goals that I have. So I'll leave you with this last lesson that God taught me this week in regard to my timeline. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I felt like God was teaching me a lesson through the way that I was parenting my child, which is funny and interesting and also makes me feel like a giant hypocrite, but hear me out. And that was, I was pumping one day, and I normally put him in this little, like, it's a metal bouncy seat that like vibrates, and I just kind of, it doesn't bounce by itself. It's like a wire seat thing, and I like bounce it with my foot. Anywho, so I'm doing that, and he's getting fussy, and I look at him and I'm like, you need to be patient. And patience is my word for the year. And so every year, well, it's only been for like the past like year or so, but last year was obedience and this year is patience. And I just felt God being like, oh, really? He needs to be patient. What does that look like? So then I explained to the baby, well, patience isn't whining until you get what you want. it's being hopeful and joyful in anticipation of what is to come. And I felt God being like, yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not whining until you get what you want. It's not comparing yourself. It's not wanting what someone else has. It's not whining about what you don't have. It's about anticipating what you were going to have. And then the part that like really got me was because I didn't even realize that God was, everything that was coming out of my mouth was, I feel like, what I needed to be hearing. And then I looked at Kingston and I said, has there, because he's still antsy, almost like Mom, you're never gonna pick me up, you're never gonna pick me up again, get me. And I look at him and I'm like, has there ever been a time I haven't picked you up? And that one, like, ugh. That one, like, gutted my heart because I just felt God being like, yeah, like, you are the biggest hypocrite in the world. And I was like, I know. But yeah, that one got me because I was just like, there's never been a time he hasn't picked me up. And so I know that when I set goals, when I feel a calling on my heart, when I know that there's something that God wants me to do, I go after it. And there's never been a time that he hasn't seen me through it. There's never been a time that he hasn't delivered on his promise. So why would this time be any different? It's not any different. So I'll leave you with that. I don't know if God has ever taught you a lesson through your children, but just, yeah. So I feel like a hypocrite because I'm trying to teach Kingston things, and here I am like needing to learn those same lessons for myself. But I guess that is the beauty and the irony of life sometimes. So I hope that this serves you. If it does, please leave me a comment with your 3 goals that you are working toward, or how you have learned a lesson in your life and how you are going to stop comparing. And one more thing I want to mention is that if you were here last week, you know that I had a plan for working toward my goals, and it was to wake up early, and that did not happen because it was sleep regression week. So if you've ever been through that, you know that they just get up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. They're like, hey, we're up now. Isn't that great? Time to party. And you're like, no, you got to get back to sleep. So that's just my little life update nugget for the end of this. And I think it's important to talk about because there are going to be things that come up. Obstacles are going to happen, and life isn't going to go as planned. So if you made a plan for how you're going to pursue your goals in 2025 and it has already gone awry, because that's how life works, I also would love to hear your stories and your comments about how you've been able to pivot and adjust your plan so that you can keep moving toward your goals, because that's what I've had to do, and more on that next time. But until next time, please count your blessings, love yourself, and stay tight.